Donald Trump just had the worst week ever, at least since he left the White House. And yes, even worse than being impeached a second time. And that is because Donald Trump not only lost a massive legal challenge that is going to create more legal problems for him in the very near future, but also because two separate investigations into his activities, some with his corporation, some with just him, also ramped up to a level that I don't think he ever expected. So let's talk about the first one. Obviously, the big one, the one that made all the headlines, he lost his Supreme Court case. In an 8-1 decision, the Supreme Court said you don't have executive privilege because the actual executive, President Joe Biden, says you don't have it. So you cannot shield your documents from the January 6th committee. National Archives has to turn them over. Sorry, bud, you lose. And of course, what this means is that anybody else from that Trump White House who had tried to claim executive privilege, they don't get it either unless Biden comes out and tries to claim executive privilege on them. If Biden says it, then yes, it sticks. But if he says, no, I'm not blocking anything, nobody else from that administration can try to make the claim. The case is done. So he's not just screwed with his documents, he's screwed on everything else, including all of these other individuals, Ivanka, Mark Meadows, and anyone else trying to claim executive privilege. They have to go and testify if they're subpoenaed. If not, they face arrest. That's what's happening now, and that's why that is such a big deal, not just because of his documents, but because it affects everyone that was a part of his administration trying to make that executive privilege claim. That's just the first of his problems. Probably what I would consider the biggest problems that emerged for him this week was the court filing, the 115-page court filing from New York Attorney General Letitia James that essentially lays out the bank fraud and tax fraud that she is investigating his company and his family for doing. Okay, it doesn't say we believe these things happened. These court filings say these things happened. Okay, there is a world of difference in law between I think and I'm proving. Okay, you can go on a hunch, but over here she's like, here's the evidence that these things did in fact happen. And because of this, Judge, I need the family to come and do some interviews with us. I need depositions. They're refusing to do this, arguing they don't have to, but I am showing you this compelling evidence that proves I need to hear from them. And of course, as I discussed earlier this week, one of the most damning things we learned from the court filing was, in fact, that Ivanka Trump was the one who basically gave the green light for the document that was submitted to Deutsche Bank that overinflated the value of certain Trump properties to help them secure a loan, which, of course, that is bank fraud. We also have, according to this court filing, numerous instances, not just in the state of New York, but all over the country, where the Trump organization undervalued their properties to local tax officials so they would pay less in taxes. And we also learned, by the way, that one of the valuations they gave for their property wasn't based on an appraisal. It wasn't based on what they had invested in it or what they purchased it for. It was based on an estimate that they read in a magazine. A magazine said, we think it's worth this, so they just read it and said, all right, good for me. It's in a magazine, right? It was printed out. Surely that's evidence that we're worth this much. We don't need to pay an auditor because the magazine done it for us. Wow, you guys are in so much trouble, and I love every second of it. And then, of course, at the end of the week, things got worse again because we found out that down in Georgia, Fulton County, that DA is asking for a special grand jury to investigate Donald Trump's phone call with Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, where, of course, he told him, go find the votes. And impaneling the special grand jury not only allows them to stay for longer, but it also gives them authorities They can issue the subpoenas, they can look at the evidence, they can do all these crazy things, they can make criminal indictments. Yeah, this is a big frickin' deal. So all of these 3 legal battles that Trump has been fighting, one of them, of course, over the fighting for the documents to not be released, because that one's done now. The other 2, gaining momentum, screwing over Trump, and his bad week this past 7 days, it's not going to get better anytime in the near future. That's what's so wonderful about this. Those investigations aren't just dumping bad news on him this week. Oh no. That's bad news that is going to stick around and continuously get worse until those investigations reach their conclusion. And I have to imagine at this point, those conclusions are probably going to make for Donald Trump having an even worse week than he just had.